Growing up in Mississippi, I spent my life there. My mom and my dad divorced when I was 3 years old, and that put a very lasting impact on my life. And while growing up, I used to always wonder what it would be like to be a husband and a good father.
I grew up in Indiana with my family, my parents, my brother, and my sister. And then I went off to college in Kentucky. And shortly after that, I went away to Centrifuge, Lifeway camps, and worked for a summer. And then my second summer, I actually met Bobby. He brought his youth group.
I began taking churches at a young age, and I ended up going to Fuge camps. My brother was a youth pastor as well and enjoyed Fuge camps. And one of my favorite camps was the camp that I met my wife, Lindsey. It was
Jackson, Tennessee, Union University.
And I can remember that week like it was yesterday. I can remember the very first time we met. I was wearing a Titleist backpack, and she came up behind me and asked me if I played golf. And I just looked at her and said, no, I just carry the backpack.
I didn't like him at all. When he was there, I thought he was a jerk.
And she looked at me and said, well, my family owns a golf course, and walked away. And I was thinking to myself, I need to talk to her. And I can remember throughout that week, I would see her periodically on campus, and I enjoyed the sport tracks, and she taught the basketball track. And
he came to my basketball track, and I actually called him out because I thought he was being too competitive.
She geared a lot of her lessons toward me, undermining, if you really want to get down to it, about being too competitive. And I can remember leaving that day, that week, that Saturday, and she came out to our van and was going to tell me bye, and I kind of left her hanging with a fist pump, and she was wanting to hug.
But we just met at camp, and then we started talking through Facebook and through text, and he came to Indiana and met my family.
I can remember walking through Indianapolis Airport to Gate 19 and getting on the airplane and thinking to myself, I think I'm going to marry this girl. So I sent a text message to my mom, and I believe my brother with that in there, and flew to Atlanta. And I can remember landing in Atlanta, the text message that I got back from them, just asking me, what are you talking about, and so on and so forth.
And then it was back and forth, me flying there and him flying here for a few months. So we dated for not very long, but it was a lot of flying back and forth.
And little did I know I would be marrying her about a year later.
Bobby flew up on Christmas of 2011.
That was an interesting day. I had some things take place on Christmas Day that I wasn't sure if I was going to make it up here through security at the airport.
And there was a bunch of issues with his plane. It was delayed, so he ended up not getting here until late that night, like 11:30.
Once I got here, we went to a downtown Indianapolis.
And when we picked him up, he was acting kind of funny. I kind of had an idea that he was going to propose.
I asked her to marry me, and
I kind of knew it was coming. I wasn't sure when.
And I guess the rest is history now. And I remember thinking I never thought I would marry someone from Indiana.
He always picks with me about being a Yankee and how he says I can't cook for being a Yankee, and that he never thought he would see himself marrying a Yankee.
I figured it would be somebody from Mississippi.
And when he took me down to meet his mama for the first time, she said, look at that yam danky. And I remember that from the beginning. That was the first thing she ever said to me.
I think Lindsey and I compliment each other. I can remember the first time I told my grandmother I was going to marry a Yankee. She looked at me, she said, Bobby, she's the one. And I remember that vividly. When I heard the name Lindsey, when I heard my wife's name Lindsey, what was the number one thing that I really thought about her? And I can honestly say when I hear her name, it's the love that she has for me and for Marley, and ultimately for Christ as well. Every time I think about her and every time her name comes up, you have to be willing to say that she is willing to do whatever. She's willing to put herself aside to make sure others are taken care of because of the selfless nature that she has.
When I hear Bobby, I think about my best friend, the love of my life. In a way, he's my protector. He's my spiritual leader. He's the father to my child.
The perfect day would be to play golf and then just either hang around the house and watch as bad as I don't want to say it, a Hallmark movie, just to make her happy and do the things that she enjoys doing. I just enjoy spending time with her.
I just love doing things together with him, with Marley, to see her excitement and to see him being the dad that he is, taking care of her and just playing with her. So like going to the zoo or going to the park or
I know most of the time when we're at home it's either sports or golf or something of that effect. But I just enjoy being in the same room with her, just have that companionship and that love for each other that I believe the Lord gave us. And then the next thing, I guess one of the most pivotal parts in our marriage is one of the most vivid memories that we've had together. I was in Baptist hospital and I was seeing a church member who was pretty sick, and I got a text message that said, "Congratulations, Daddy." I remember looking at that and putting it back in my pocket because I don't look at my phone while I'm making a hospital visit. And I can remember walking out of the hospital and I realized that she was pregnant. And I remember thinking, wow, this is it. This is the time for me to be the father that I never had. This is the time for me to love like I never experienced.
He grew up without a dad, so all along he's told me that he wants to do everything that opposite of what his dad did, and he does. I mean, he takes care of her, he provides for her, he plays with her, even when his back is giving him fits, he gets on the floor and plays with her.
I just pray that the Lord will let me keep my mind for a long time to be able to remember that day that I received the text message that I was going to be a father. And
the number one memory I have of Bobby is when we had Marley. Him coming into the room when I was about to have my C-section and just holding my hand and telling me it was going to be okay. And then when she came out screaming and we heard that cry for the first time, just his face when we saw that or heard her for the first time, for sure. Just that memory, just childbirth, having our first baby.
The day that I saw her come down the aisle and the day that I found out that I was going to be a father and the day that we had Marley, I knew that my wife was the one that God had chosen for me.
I love Bobby's love for the Lord and just for people in general. I love his love for me and for Marley. We can feel how much he loves us just by little things he does for us, leaving little surprises or leaving little treats for us and just taking care of people in the church. It just shows how big of a heart he has. Just watching him be a daddy to her, watching him do all the things that I remember my dad doing for me when I was little and making him such a great dad. Bobby has a lot of those same characteristics in how he raises Marley or helps me raise Marley.
Would I change anything? Absolutely not. I believe that the years that we've been married and the years that we were trying to have a child and the trials that we have been through, whether it be personal or family or church or whatever it may be, I can honestly say there's no one else that I'd rather go through those things with than the one I call my wife, Lindsey.